Welcome, everyone. We're glad
Hello,
to have you
hello.
today. Well, good morning, Hardin County. Phil Toll here with Hardin Local, and welcome to our first of four candidate interviews we're running today ahead of the May 19th primary. I'm joined by Joseph Redmon, who is in the Republican primary for Kentucky State Representative District 27. That's Radcliff, plus our neighbors over in Meade County. Before we bring Joseph in, a quick thank you to the two Hardin County businesses sponsoring today's election coverage, the Plumbing Doctor and Omni Design Group, both Hardin County born and built. More on both of them in a few minutes. Joseph, thanks for being here. Same format for every candidate in your race, which I think you're actually the only one we're doing in your race. Same questions, same order, same time limits, no surprises, and no edits. So let's dig in. What office are you running for, and why this office specific?
It's the 27th House District, which is most of Radcliff and all of Meade County. It's a state legislative position. You are the one of 100 lawmakers in Franklin.
Briefly, what happened in your life that led you to run?
Well, I'm a grandfather of three, and each of them live here in Meade County, so I get to see them a lot. It's a blessing that I know a lot of grandparents. They probably are lucky to see their grandchildren 3 or 4 times a year, and we see ours 5 or 6 times a week. And so I'm conscious of that. Sometimes it's taken for granted, but yes, I'm concerned about our future, and I'm concerned about their future specifically. So that's the reason I'm running.
Good reason. What in your background most prepares you for this seat?
Well, I'm a husband, I'm a father, a grandfather, a retired soldier. I'm a former contractor in Afghanistan. Formerly, I was the executive director of TACK, Transit Authority of Central Kentucky in E-Town. I've got a master's degree in government from the University of Louisville. You know, and all of these really combine to assist me in being an effective representative. But the truth is when it comes to being prepared to be a real representative, you've got to have a servant's heart. And I think that's what I'm trying to focus on, making sure that people understand. I think that's the most important thing. All those other things are really good. And about my background, I'm 64, so I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not doing this to enhance my future career. I'm doing it out of a sense of duty. And I think a servant's heart is really what you need to have to be a good representative.
I agree. If voters only remember one thing about why they should pick you, what is it?
I believe it's because I'm a hard worker, and they know that I'm going to stand up and fight for our value, and I'm going to try to make the government smaller. And I think it's important to understand. You know, I've made fun of Democrats in the past. I'm just one of them people that I'm a conservative, and I have been for a while. And so the truth of the matter is, though, is I'm not going down to Frankfort to battle against the Democrats. You know, that party that half of them, they don't even know what a woman is. I mean, that's not the problem. The problem is we have to battle ourselves in Frankfort. 80 of those 100 representatives I mentioned before are all Republicans. And so when I talk about the necessity for us to have a smaller government, I'm going to be fighting against my fellow Republicans to make that the case. And I have to build a coalition of like-minded conservatives to do that.
All right, let's take a quick break. Today's election coverage is brought to you in part by the Plumbing Doctor, a family-owned Hardin County plumbing company run by Glenn and Tracy Downs right here in Elizabethtown. Over 20 years serving E-Town, Radcliff, Fort Knox, and Hodgenville. Fully licensed and insured, 24/7 emergency service, and a 10% labor discount for military, first responders, and seniors. Look, showing up to vote on May 19th is one way to take care of community. Calling your neighbors when your water heater goes out is another. When your pipes go, call local. Call 765-PLUM, PLUM. That's 765-PLUM, PLUM. The Plumbing Doctor. Experienced, reliable, and affordable. All right, let's get back to the next question. First 90 days. What's the first concrete thing you do in office?
Well, before I'm sworn in, I would like to make contact with all local leadership. I think I'm not certain how much assistance we can receive from Frankfurt when it comes to one of our most pressing local issues, is that's a lack of affordable housing. Here in Meade County, we're a steel mill town now. A lot of people don't know that, but Nucor Steel came to town about 4 years ago, and they have really enhanced our local economy. We went from a $53,000 family median income, a household median income. Now it's 73,000 per family, per household. So they're definitely making the tide rise. The problem is that we were short on housing before they came, and now we're just much more short on housing. And so it's a really big crisis over here. I'd like to know more about how it is in Radcliff. I assume that they have a shortage there also, especially of the affordable kind.
Mhm.
And so
I think all Hardin County does. They're still working on
I
it.
think that we have to start addressing it as soon as possible. And so I want to prepare for next year's session by actually talking to the mayor of Radcliff, talking to the city councilman, talking to the judge exec, Judge Tall, and also with my own leadership here to start putting together, because I think our problems are a little different. Our challenges may be a little different than what you see from what the legislature was trying to do last session in Senate Bill 9. I think some of our challenges are going to be a little different than that. So anyway, that's
Okay. Is your campaign self-funded, donor funded, or a mix?
it's a mix. Right now, most of the money is coming from me, but I do accept donations. Go to joeredmon.com and you can make a donation. The it's mixed.
Okay, that was my next question. Where should voters go to learn more? You said joeredmon.com.
JoeRedmond.com. It's got a lot of my biographical information. I left out a lot of details. Been married to the same woman for 43 years. Um, so there's a lot in there about me, and there's also a lot of more about specific issues that we may or may not get a chance to talk about today.
Well, we've got to take another break to pay the bills. Before we get into the state rep specific questions, a big thank you to our second sponsor today, Omni Design Group. Omni is a second generation builder based right here in Elizabethtown. My good friend Josh Branningham and Corey Joel were both born and raised in Hardin County with deep family and business roots in the county. They handle new construction and remodeling across residential and light commercial, any size home, any size reno. No project is too big, no renovation is too small, and no idea is too out of the ordinary. They're the team that built the first storage container commercial structure in Hardin County over at Heartland Mini Golf. If you've got a build, a remodel, or an outside the box project rattling around in your head, call or text Corey Jewell at Omni Design Group. His number is 270-769-8339. That's 270-769-8339. Corey at Omni Design Group, locally owned, locally built, custom theme. All right, Joe, let's get into the race specific question. A Kentucky state representative serves a 2-year term as part of the 100-member House in Frankfurt. In an even year session like this one, you will have up to 60 legislative days, and an odd year up to 30. In plain language, how do you describe the job to a voter who's never watched a committee meeting? What can a state rep actually do, and what can a state rep not do?
Well, that's a pretty good question. The truth is that a freshman legislator is going to be in a listening and learning mode at the very beginning. It's going to be drinking from a fire hose. I think I'm going to be a forceful advocate for smaller government. So obviously, I have to build coalitions. I have to seek out and find like-minded to start to build that coalition. So I think that one of the things we have to do is rebrand the Republican Party of Kentucky to be able to say, we come home to our constituents and everybody says, oh, we had a touchdown, we did this, we just passed a $52 billion biennial budget. But to me, for us to say it's success in 2 years from now, we need to pass one that's $51.5 billion. It needs to be smaller. So that needs to be the measure of what we consider to be our own success. It's not just that we went up there and spent money a little bit differently than the Democrats would have, but we need to be able to spend less. I firmly believe, like I believe in gravity. You believe in gravity. You can test it if you want. Fall out of your chair there, you're going to fall on the floor. Okay, just in the same way as that, as government gets larger, our individual liberty will get smaller. It will contract. It will be smaller as the power and authority and size and scope of the government gets larger. Your liberty gets smaller. And I think that's axiomatic. I think most conservatives all understand that. We have to make this a real thing. And so I guess I would love to beat up on Democrats on your show today, but the truth of the matter is we have to convince Republicans that this is the case. This is what we've been saying to people for 20 years, and we've got to make this real.
That's great. That's time on that one. The 2026 General Assembly just passed the $32.4 billion 2-year state budget on April 2nd. Seek per pupil and K through 12 funding rises to around $4,500 in 2027 and $4,700 in 2028, less than Governor Brashear had proposed. And the Medicaid allocation came out to roughly around $700 million below his ask. How do you approach those trade-offs? Where would you have pushed to spend more? Where to hold the line? And what do you want voters in District 27 to understand about what that budget actually does?
That's a pretty specific question. I like the question. I'm going to offer you some generalities only because, I don't have the inside perspective that I would if I was actually, in behind the scenes talking to people down there about what it is.
I think that's fine. I think more like just talk about how you would approach those trade-offs and working with the other side of the aisle, I guess.
I think educating our children basically equates into investing in our future. And as I told you before, that's the reason I'm running is because I have 3 grandchildren. So I definitely believe that. I'm also a big believer in the efficacy of education. So I should be a very easy mark when it comes to the education bureaucracy asking for money. The problem that I have is I just refuse to feed the current system that we have. It's proven resilient against any form of reform. It will not be reformed. And so I think that the opponents of basic reform, they're going to have to be brought to heel. They're going to have to understand we need reform before I can go and propose a 20% increase or a 50% increase. And I would love to reinvest money. I think we spend too much money, you asked that question, on higher education in the state of Kentucky. I love the University of Kentucky. I love the University of Louisville, double graduate, Western Kentucky. But I just think that we have to spend more money on the ECTs of the world. We have to spend more money on the plumbers and the pipe fitters and the welders and HVAC technicians and electricians.
30 seconds left on this question.
Those are the things that we have to focus upon I love it when a backhoe operator can quote Shakespeare, but that's not important for the people of Kentucky. We can't invest our money in that. Does that make sense?
It does. So Senate Bill 9, the Omnibus Housing Bill, died on the final days of the 26th session. Hardin County and our neighbors in Meade and Breckenridge have a real housing shortage, like you talked about earlier, from starter homes to rentals to workforce housing. How would you approach affordable housing as a state rep? Is there a specific bill, incentive, or local partnership you'd push to revive or write in the 27th session?
I think this is a complicated issue. It's going to force people like me to stretch. We generally tend to believe the marketplace will provide the answer. Just get the government out of the way. I think that's not the total answer, though, because obviously the market's not responding. See, I happen to think in Meade County, we're critically short of affordable housing, not because of the government. It's not anything the government has done to suppress it. And maybe in Louisville or in Lexington or in other maybe in E-Town, maybe that's the case, but not in Brandenburg and Meade County. The fact is we need investors who are serious about it. We need we need startup capital. That's what we need, and we need to have a way. We have this thing called Fuller Housing, Habitat for Humanity. They vet and they bring in owners, and they're very successful at this. We've got to do something similar. We've got to convince young families to invest in a piece of the rock. It's not just because I'm looking out for their financial futures. It's because I understand when they invest in a piece of the rock, I'm creating better, more civic-minded citizens in the future that are going to do a better job of providing their children and grandchildren the same values. Does that make sense? I don't.
It does.
Might have
That's good.
rambled a little bit on that one. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you were under time. So the next question is, Kentucky took a federal major disaster declaration for April 25 storms and flooding that hit Meade County and Hardin and 30 plus other counties, and another for the May 25 Western Kentucky tornadoes. As a state rep, how do you see your role in disaster recovery, like coordinating with FEMA, the governor's office, county emergency management, and your colleagues whose districts were hit harder or lighter than yours?
It's important to understand. I'm not saying this to be terse. The state representative role, there really is no role. I mean, my role is in setting policy and funding it. When something like that happens, my job turns into holding hands and listening to people and going around and making sure that the executive functions, whether it be from the governor's office or the county judge executive's office, are actually functioning on the ground, that we're actually putting into place the procedures that we had talked about and rehearsed in the past for emergency management. And so the state representative's role, I have no authority at all on the ground. My job would be there to sit there and listen to you, help you pick up your houses on the front lawn, and obviously that would be my role. I would be out there helping and commensurating with people. So I don't want to. The idea that I'm going to take over for the judge executive or for the governor in that situation is not. It's not true. They're the ones that's going to be in charge.
Okay. The General Assembly is a supermajority change, which I don't think we have time to get into. I could explain it, but to our audience, but
80-20, that's supermajority.
Yeah, exactly. But what it means and everything. The governor is from the other party, and almost every major issue, Medicaid, education, taxes, disaster relief, sits at the intersection of federal, state, and local government. How do you build working relationships across those boundaries, especially when you disagree with the other side on substance?
It's a great question. I'm not sure how much it applies. Our governor's running for president. So
I think it's more or less like just asking, like, how do you see yourself like able to work with, like, to at least, like, develop relationships with the other side? Is that important to you or not?
Oh, it is. It is important. I don't want to pay that short shrift. What I'm saying is that the reality is that Governor Beshear is running for president. He has marginalized himself in the legislative process for the last two sessions. Because, well, I mean, there's a lot of ways for him to go in and say, look, I don't agree with this. Can you kind of shave the edge off of this a little bit and put a little more effort over here? And then we can all go to the people and say we all agree about this. And even though he's getting only 20% of what he wanted, he could say that. But see, he didn't even try. He's in the habit of vetoing legislation and then coming back later on and taking credit for it. I mean, the legislature right now does not trust Governor Beshear. I mean, it's a big problem when if you pretend to be a leader, you have to establish trust, and you got to trust and confidence in your leadership. And he has destroyed that. So, the question really is now, if it was a different Democrat governor, if another Democrat was to win in 2027, God forbid, but if one was, then yes, absolutely. We would have to hone our skills at being able to work with somebody that is not seeing this the same way we do. And so obviously there will be a whole lot more give and take. There should be. That's part of the process. But
okay,
I want to.
I'm going to give you a minute.
Okay,
go ahead.
I want to emphasize real quick, Phil, that I've spent a lot of time. You can go to my Facebook page. My Facebook page is wide open. I haven't closed it down. I've said some edgy things. I've said some things that we'll piss some people off. But I can defend every one of them if given a chance. I mean, the truth of the matter is that it's easy to mock or make fun of your political opposition in certain circumstances and certain things and have fun with it. Okay, I got that. But the truth of the matter is your question really points to what are you willing to do to get things done? And I think that's important. Okay. The real truth of it is, though, is my opposition is going to come from inside the Republican Party. We're going to have to force the Republicans to live up to our own standards and our own perspectives and our own promises that we've been making for 20 years to make the government smaller, to make it more effective, more efficient. And like I said, 32 billion, it needs to be 31.75 billion for the next biennial. We need to redefine our brand that we're going to make the government smaller. I didn't say it needed to be $12 billion. I didn't say we were going to cut it in half or something. I'm just saying that we have to make it smaller. We've got to find ways to start cutting the government to fund our priorities, but we're going to have to find ways to defund other things. And right now, every dollar that's appropriated in Frankfurt or Washington, D.C. has got somebody that's willing to fight for it. They're going to fight you for every nickel. You're not going to get away with cutting 10 cents out of anything unless you're willing to fight for it. So you'll
That's
see that
great.
word fight.
I mean, I like to hear the passion. I have to be impartial during these interviews, and so I'm not like audience when I say that's great or this. Just know I'm just interacting. I'm trying not to take or pick sides here, but that was a closing is what I mean. Like, because I was gonna give you a moment to close, but you already did it. So Joseph, thank you for your time. We really appreciate you sitting down with us today. For viewers, if you missed where Joseph said voters can learn more, we'll drop that in the comments right after the stream ends, which you said it was
JoeRedmon.com.
Redmon.com. Then let me put it up on screen. Is that right?
That's it.
You can learn more about Joe here at JoeRedmon.com. So we definitely thank you for spending some time with us today. And one more thank you to today's sponsors, the Plumbing Doctor. You can reach them at 765-PLUM, PLUM, for Hardin County Plumbing Services, and Omni Design Group. Call or text Corey Jewell at Omni Design Group 270-769-8339 for your next build, remodel, or custom project. This interview will stay archived on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Facebook will remove it after 30 days, but we'll figure out a way to get it publicly. We'll save this live stream because we'll also put an edited version out that's just going to make it a little shorter, just cut out our ums and ands and verbal pauses, which we'll get that out, and that will stay out there. But I'll save these live raw videos in case anybody wants to say we weren't fair to a candidate. But share this with anyone voting on May 19th in northern part of the county and that 27th district. Up next at 12:30 will be Pam Ogden, who's running for re-election for mayor of Vine Grove in a 3-way nonpartisan primary. Same 7 opening questions, but we'll have different race-specific seats. Stick around, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.